At the official meeting held at the central headquarters of the Eastern Military Zone, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Marshal Shi Hongfei, a formidable figure with a deep scar running across his eye, approached the large oak table at the center of the room. The marshal's remaining hand rested heavily on the table as he unrolled a detailed map, spreading it wide for all to see. His other hand, marked with the signs of many battles, began to trace the lines and contours of the terrain depicted. How many forces can we deploy at this moment? A soldier standing beside him, distinguished by his glasses and a slight frame, shifted uneasily. He clasped his hands behind his back in a disciplined stance, but the anxiety was evident in the bead of sweat trickling down his cheek. Clearing his throat, he responded, "Marshal, we can deploy very few forces immediately. Even if we gave the order right now, the fastest they could arrive would be by tomorrow." Marshal Shi Hongfei's expression hardened. He moved his finger to a mountainous region on the map and tapped it decisively. "We must block the most vital region first," he declared, his tone brooking no argument. "We need to prioritize reinforcing Point A." The soldier with glasses, normally composed, lost his cool. His eyes widened in surprise, and he blurted out, "But, Marshal, position B on the front line is equally as important as position A." Shi Hongfei's gaze bore into the map, his teeth clenched tightly as he wrestled with the difficult decision. He exhaled slowly, then looked up, meeting the soldier's eyes with a stern, unyielding stare. "I know that," he acknowledged, his voice strained yet controlled, "but Point B is far from residential areas. It's an open expanse where, even if the defense line collapses, we can gradually recover the rear area." He paused, allowing the gravity of his next words to sink in. "Point A is different. If it falls, the monsters could invade the nearest city in less than half a month." He pointed emphatically at Point A, his body radiating a powerful, fiery energy that seemed to ignite the very air around him. "Protecting our people and defending our homeland is our top priority." The room fell silent as his words echoed through the chamber. All the soldiers stood before Marshal Shi Hongfei, their hands clasped behind their backs in disciplined unison. The room was filled with an almost palpable tension, the air thick with the gravity of their situation. The soldiers hesitated, exchanging glances laden with unspoken fears and doubts. Sweat trickled down their faces, a testament to the high stakes of the decision before them. Despite their trepidation, a murmur of agreement rippled through the ranks, growing stronger as each soldier found their resolve. The marshal observed them closely, his gaze piercing and unyielding. He placed both hands firmly on the table, the wood creaking under the pressure of his steely grip. Lifting his head, he surveyed the room, noting the absence of objections. With a serious, unwavering expression, he made his decision. "We will execute this plan," he declared, his voice a beacon of authority. After finalizing the strategy, Marshal Shi Hongfei turned to his subordinate. "Which division is defending Point A?" he inquired, his tone demanding precision. The soldier wearing glasses, ever the diligent aide, brought his hand to his forehead in a crisp salute. He then looked directly at the marshal and reported, "The division defending Point A is the 1058th Division, under the command of Major General Sun Jie." Marshal Shi Hongfei's eyes bore into his subordinate. "Inform Sun Jie that they must hold the defensive line at all costs, even if it means reaching the last man and the last bullet," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of absolute necessity. "For those in other positions, they are to selectively defend. If necessary, they will withdraw and reinforce Point A." The room was silent, the gravity of the orders sinking in. Each soldier knew what was being asked of them and the immense responsibility they carried. After discussing all the major points, the marshal dismissed the meeting, his mind already shifting to the next steps. At the same time, on the defensive line of the 1182nd Regiment, a military base nestled near the mountains was fully occupied. Armed soldiers guarded it around the clock, their vigilance unwavering. Inside the main camp, General Yu Fei moved restlessly within his tent, his hands clasped behind his back. The Central Command had informed him that they would have to wait at least 2 more days, possibly more. The uncertainty gnawed at him, a constant reminder of the precariousness of their situation. Yu Fei's mind was a tempest of thoughts. He didn't know when this ordeal would end, and the anxiety of anticipation was almost unbearable. Lu Shang sat nearby, meticulously cleaning his spear with a cloth. He was perched on a crate of weapons, the spear held firmly in one hand. His expression was one of calm focus, his eyes fixed on the task at hand. Without looking up, he broke the silence, his voice measured and thoughtful. General Yufei, Lu Sheng began. Are the other front lines always in such danger? He turned his head slightly to glance at the general, his gaze inquisitive yet serene. Is this the reason the Central Command can't send reinforcements for the latest spatial crack? Yufei, who had been pacing restlessly, halted in his tracks. He placed one hand behind his back and began pointing at Lu Sheng with the other, his face a mixture of frustration and resolve. The issue isn't with the reinforcements, Yufei explained. What's really lacking are high-level martial artists. You know as well as I do how terrifying a level 7 mutant beast can be. Only martial artists of a similar caliber can hope to stand against them. Lu Sheng listened quietly, his face betraying no emotion. As the general pointed at him, Yufei's mind wandered back to a recent memory. He remembered the day Lu Sheng had faced a mutant gorilla-like beast. The creature had been a formidable opponent, its sheer strength and ferocity unmatched. Yet, Lu Sheng had dispatched it with a single, devastating kick. The memory of that moment, the raw power and precision of Lu Sheng's strike, sent a shiver down Yufei's spine. His expression changed drastically as he looked towards the ground, lost in thought. He realized that Lu Sheng might not fully grasp the true horror of a rank 7 beast, not because he was ignorant, but because he was an anomaly himself, a monster in his own right. Lu Sheng had been moving among the front lines for 5 consecutive days, an almost superhuman feat that had earned him a legendary status among his peers. Yufei recalled how Lu Sheng would return from the front lines each day, his body soaked in blood. Even after washing himself, the scent of battle clung to him, a grim reminder of the relentless warfare he faced. Lu Sheng continued cleaning his spear. His hands moved methodically. His focus was absolute, yet he sensed Yufei's lingering gaze. Turning his head, he caught sight of the general pointing at him, finger outstretched, as if frozen in place. Is something wrong? Lu Sheng asked. General Yufei snapped out of his trance, a slight flush of embarrassment coloring his cheeks. He quickly reassured Lu Sheng, no, nothing's wrong. In that instant, Lu Sheng's grip tightened around his spear, and an extraordinary transformation began. Black and golden lightning crackled around him, enveloping his body in a brilliant, almost blinding display of power. The energy coalesced, forming the image of a massive, blazing knight, a testament to his formidable martial prowess. Yufei watched in awe, feeling the raw power radiating from Lu Sheng. With a mixture of admiration and concern, Yufei spoke. You've been on the battlefield for less than a week, yet you already possess more killing intent than veterans who have fought for years. To me, you are the real monster in this world. Lu Sheng finished cleaning his spear, the lightning dissipating as quickly as it had appeared. He placed the weapon on his back and rose to his feet. Closing his eyes for a moment, he exhaled deeply. What you're saying is exaggerated, he said quietly. I'm not as great as you think. General Yufei stood beside him, his expression shifting from admiration to surprise. Be careful out there, he urged, and contact me if anything happens at any time. Lu Sheng nodded, acknowledging the concern in Yufei's voice. Understood, he replied, his tone steady and unwavering. With that, Lu Sheng left the tent. As Lu Sheng approached the entrance of the tent, he lifted the heavy curtain with a swift motion of his hand and stepped outside. He raised his head, expecting the usual hustle and bustle of the camp, but instead, he was greeted by a scene that took him by surprise. Almost all the soldiers present, including Qin Shaojun, were gathered in front of General Yufei's tent. Their eyes were fixed on him as he emerged. The moment they saw Lu Sheng, the soldiers stood to attention and saluted him. The gesture was not just a sign of respect but a profound expression of gratitude. They acknowledged him as the warrior who had single-handedly defeated so many mutant beasts, safeguarding their lives and the camp. Their eyes shone with admiration, and their voices rose in unison to wish him good luck and success in his future battles. Lu Sheng felt a rush of emotions. He started walking, trying to maintain his usual calm demeanor, but he couldn't help the smile that spread across his face. Excitement and gratitude filled his heart as he heard the soldiers' praises. They spoke of his youth and promise, calling him a future general. There was a palpable sense of hope among them, a belief that with Lu Sheng leading the charge, their raid would surely be successful. Among the gathered soldiers stood Dong Qingxue. She remained silent, her eyes fixed on Lu Sheng with a loving gaze that did not go unnoticed. For a few moments, their eyes met, and an unspoken connection passed between them. But then, she crossed her arms, turned her back on the others, closed her eyes, and started to walk away. The cheers of the soldiers echoed around them, but but Lu Sheng's focus was drawn to Dong Qingshue's retreating figure. He felt a pang of confusion. Had he done something wrong? Why was she distancing herself from him? These thoughts swirled in his mind, creating an uneasy feeling that gnawed at him. Trying to push the uncertainty aside, Lu Sheng reached into his pocket and took out 2 green jade amulets. He looked at them, a joyful expression crossing his face. These amulets were precious, and in the chaos of the recent days, he had almost forgotten about them. Just then, Qin Shaojun approached him, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. Qin turned his head towards Lu Sheng, his face breaking into a wide smile. "Great hero," he called out warmly. "Are you getting ready to go out again?" Lu Sheng, still holding the amulet in his hand, turned his serious gaze towards Qin Shaojun. "Instructor," he began, his tone firm and sincere, "please don't make fun of me." He approached Qin Shaojun, extending his hand to offer the 2 amulets. As he looked into Qin Shaojun's eyes, he continued, "I made these personally before coming here. I had forgotten to give them to you. One of these is for you, and I'd like you to personally deliver the other to Instructor Dong Qingxue." Qin Shaojun reached out and took the amulets, his expression a mixture of confusion and curiosity. He inspected the intricate craftsmanship, wondering what these amulets truly were. As he held them in his hands, Lu Sheng suddenly disappeared from sight. Qin Shaojun clenched his fist tightly, a surge of frustration and anger bubbling up within him. He couldn't believe that Lu Sheng had left this task to him. Holding the strings of the amulets in one hand, Qin Shaojun inspected them closely with the other. Despite his initial frustration, a feeling of joy began to well up inside him. Lu Sheng had made these amulets with care and thoughtfulness, a testament to his good heart. Just as he was lost in these thoughts, someone approached and snatched one of the amulets from his hand. Surprised and confused, Qin Shaojun turned to see Dong Qingxue standing before him. She held the amulet tightly in one hand. Her back turned to him as she began to walk away. Qin Shaojun's anger flared up again. "I know you're nervous and in love with Lu Sheng," he shouted after her. Dong Qingxue ignored his outburst, her steps steady and resolute. She clenched the amulet in her fist, her eyes fixed on the ground. As she walked, a blush spread across her cheeks at the thought that Lu Sheng had made it especially for her. The amulet felt warm in her hand, a small but powerful token of his regard. The camp buzzed with activity around them, but for a moment, the world seemed to narrow down to just the 2 of them. Lu Sheng stepped out of the 1182 base and moved through the abandoned city, his senses heightened. His keen perception allowed him to detect the faint presence of life and danger in the area. It wasn't long before Lu Sheng's attention was drawn to a soldier engaged in a desperate fight against the advancing mutant beasts. The soldier was valiantly holding his ground, firing his machine gun at the 2 monstrous creatures closing in on him. One beast was a massive arthropod, its legs clicking menacingly as it scuttled forward, and the other was a towering, gorilla-like creature with bulging muscles and a terrifying roar. The soldier, drenched in sweat and fueled by sheer determination, continued to shoot even as the beasts drew nearer. The ground beneath him trembled with each step of the advancing gorilla-like beast. The soldier's gunfire rang out incessantly, but the beasts seemed impervious to the bullets. Finally, his gun clicked empty, and the realization of his predicament hit him. Panic flickered across his face, but it quickly turned to grim resolve. With a determined gaze, the soldier threw his empty gun aside and ripped off his vest, revealing a row of grenades strapped to his chest. He was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, planning to take the beasts down with him. Just as he was about to pull the pins, a strange purple energy enveloped him, freezing him in place. He tried to move but found himself immobilized. At that moment, Lu Sheng landed gracefully nearby and began to approach the soldier, his demeanor calm and composed. "Don't give up your life so easily," Lu Sheng said softly, his voice carrying a reassuring strength. The soldier, still immobilized, turned his head to look at Lu Sheng, his eyes wide with surprise and a flicker of hope. He couldn't help but wonder who this person was, standing so fearlessly before the advancing beasts. The mutant beasts took advantage of the chaos and attacked with a ferocity that sent tremors through the earth. Amidst the panic, Lu Sheng stood unflinchingly. His eyes, once calm, now glowed with a murderous intensity. "Silence," he commanded, his voice cold and resonant. The beasts paused, their primal instincts sensing something ominous. Lu Sheng's body began to emit a suffocating purple energy, a tangible manifestation of his immense power. This energy surged forward like a tide, enveloping the beasts in a suffocating grip. Their eyes widened in horror and confusion as the energy constricted around them. In a blink, the purple energy reached a critical point. With a soundless explosion, the heads of the mutant beasts erupted, sending a spray of blood and gore into the air. The beasts fell to the ground in lifeless heaps. The battlefield fell eerily silent as Lu Sheng stood among the fallen, his gaze as cold and distant as the stars. A soldier, who had witnessed the scene, turned his body to the side, his face pale with shock. He stared at Lu Sheng, disbelief etched on his features. He knew these beasts well. They were formidable, requiring the combined efforts of at least 3 seasoned warriors to subdue. Even their most skilled general needed multiple strikes to bring one down. Yet, here was Lu Sheng, dispatching 2 of them with a mere glance. As if sensing the soldier's thoughts, Lu Sheng turned his gaze towards him. "To which division do you belong?" he asked calmly. The soldier snapped to attention, his hand rising in a salute. "Colonel Lu Yiqing of the 835th Division, sir," he replied. He couldn't help but notice how young Lu Sheng appeared, and yet, the power he wielded was nothing short of extraordinary. This young warrior was a future star in the making. Lu Sheng stroked his chin thoughtfully. The 835th Division was adjacent to the 1182nd Division, both in terms of defense and martial prowess. He had always thought that their general, Yu Fei, was unparalleled. Yet, the power displayed by Lu Yiqing's division was remarkable. He approached Lu Yiqing, his expression serene. "How did you arrive here? Has the defensive line of the 835th Division extended this far?" Lu Yiqing's face darkened. He extended his hands, his eyes locking with Lu Sheng's. "The defensive line of the 835th Division has been destroyed," he revealed grimly. Lu Sheng's expression changed instantly. His usual calm was replaced with surprise and concern. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice laced with urgency.